There we go.
What do we need? One more? One more round of music?
Please.
Okay, one more round of welcome to our show. welcome everyone to Consent Countdown. My name is Casper and I'm joined here by Schachter. Today we're going to talk about all things consent. Consent in our everyday lives. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Casper. I run Comprehensive Consent and I mostly work with kids, but we don't really know why, because I really like working with adults too. And I'm gonna, I'm hearing that Schachter has a report for us on escalation and participation. Schachter, would you mind introducing yourself and then telling us what's on the report for today?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Casper. My name is Schachter, and I use they them pronouns. I'm on Instagram at Consent Wizard, and I don't work with kids. And anyone who asks me if I do, I send them to Casper over here. So today I wanted to talk about something that I've noticed on dating apps. I posted about it and I got some comments that were like, why is this a problem? And it's not that I think there's a problem per se. So I'll describe the phenomenon and then we can talk about what's going on. Sound good?
That sounds great to me. I don't remember if we introduced what in the world we're doing. Do we want to do that?
I mean, I think the consent countdown is going to be us. It's every fourth Wednesday of the month, and we're going to be going over things that have come up in the realm of consent in our lives in the past month. Yep.
And we're doing sports.
Yeah, no sports.
And sports. Go sports.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with sports.
Yeah, nothing to do with sports.
Other than the structure of the countdown.
We think.
Perhaps. You tell us.
We haven't watched the show. We don't know. Okay, so dating apps. What's going on with dating apps? Also, I'm going to take this headphones out because I'm not actually connected with my headphones.
It was really good prop, though. You okay?
Thank you. Yeah, I had water and I stuck my fingers in it accidentally. And now there's water on my desk, but that's okay. Editing will take care of that.
Yeah. All right, so here's what I've noticed, particularly on Field, but I think that this pervades all dating apps, which is that I most frequently am asked for my phone number so that we can move off the app. This mostly happens when I'm talking to a cis man. That's what I've noticed. When I've talked to people of other genders, if it happens, there's something of a different approach to it. Someone asked if there's somewhere else besides the app that I would like to correspond. Instagram is often put on the table, which I appreciate because that's like a public thing as a for too long, so I will take that setting off for next time. Okay, so yeah, I don't mind moving to Instagram. I feel like that's, anyone can find me there, that's fine, but giving away my personal phone number that I've had for half my life now is not comfortable for me before I have met someone and kind of like vetted them. I don't necessarily want them having access to me that way. So I wrote on my stories that this was something that was bothering me, because what I was noticing was that it was almost always a request coming from someone else, as opposed to them waiting for me to offer or to make the request myself. So the fact that it was almost never being left to me to make that choice or that suggestion started to feel really noteworthy. And especially the way that it happens on Field, because that app is so glitchy. And we'll tag them in here and hopefully they work on it. Is that people sort of have this like easy out. They say, this app is super glitchy. Can we text instead? And what has happened that I've experienced now a lot is that as soon as I give someone my phone number, there's like this escalation that starts. They start texting me. The topics change. They veer into more personal, intimate topics. Then they start sometimes sending me voice memos. So I've described this this like thing in dating as this sort of, people talk about it as the dance. But for me, it's like, if you take one step in towards me, or you like escalate intimacy to some degree, please wait until I then take one step into you before you take another step in. Because my experience with cis men pretty much exclusively is that they take a step in and I just say okay, and then they take another step and I say okay, and they continue taking steps towards me. So some people said, like, why is that unreasonable? What's the issue? I don't think that it's unreasonable in and of itself. I think what is significant is that it is a pattern of not deferring to me in any way to make the offer or make the request myself. Now, the last thing I'll say before I want to hear what you think about this is that I noticed this a while ago, but then it was put into stark contrast by someone that I matched with on an app. We talked for like almost 2 weeks before we met in person. Not once did he ask to leave the app and talk to me. We had our first date. It went well. And then he continued contact on the app. And then I said, I feel good about moving to text if that is something that you would like. And or if that was something that, if you would prefer that. And he said, yeah, that would be great. And we ended up exchanging numbers and moving to text. Because I had literally never had that experience before, it became this like glaring example of what feels awesome to me.
Yeah.
What I recognized in that was that it gave me the opportunity to actually feel the feeling of, I want to give you my phone number, which with pretty much everyone else when this thing has happened, I don't want to give them my phone number. I like oblige. So what do you think of that?
Tap. So thank you, Schacter. So when we talked about that this was what we were going to talk about, I definitely had some resistance because I saw it at first as very much like, is Mia saying there's a problem with a cis man asking me or anyone for their number? And then exactly when you explained to me that it was more about how like this was just one representation of a thing that does happen all the time, I was very on board, because I have definitely noticed this, as you said, the one step in and then the other step in. I know one of the things I talk about in terms of like nonverbal communication is active participation. If you're initiating everything, that's not that, even if they're saying yes and going along with it, that's not really active. That's kind of still participation, but it's passive precipitation and perspiration. It's active participation, passive, but I don't remember what I was saying. But so that is one thing. I also think it's reciprocity. Like if you're not doing it, you're not showing, it tells me that you're not looking out for reciprocity. And if you're not sure if there's reciprocity or not, you can even say, I know I asked for your number and I don't want to escalate things too quickly because I care about your comfort zone, but I am really interested on a date. So whenever like that's an open invitation for whenever you're interested or something like that, where it's just some kind of recognition of you are not the leader and I am the follower. I am not the gatekeeper where you ask me things and then I permit you to do them. We both ask each other for things in a way that feels right for both of us. So very much agree with it. Very much have experienced that in my own life, where I was just saying okay, but I didn't even have the opportunity to check in with what I wanted and ask for what I wanted because there were so many asks and requests and pushes on their end.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a couple things that you're making me think of that I want to mention. One is that it almost never comes in the form of a, here's my number if you like to move off the app. It's a request. It's please give me something. And something that I think is really important to mention is that this particular thing has become like a mini red flag that because of how many times I've experienced that is the very first the first instance of that moving in towards me without me moving back or towards you. It does not always lead to that, but every time that is the situation that I find myself in down the line, it did start with the request for my phone number.
Yeah.
Like I can track it back to that. So it's not in and of itself like wrong. I'm not suggesting that. It is often indicative of a larger pattern. And I think what the fact that I have noticed this means that it has happened enough times that I recognize it as a pervasive pattern. And that's why I think it's significant. It's not an isolated incident.
Right. I have some of those too, of things that, and I don't know if this is what you're saying, or maybe this is something separate, but things that that are in it of themselves aren't red flags, but I've had so many encounters with the thing that now it makes me skeptical. Like even someone who says, like when someone says like in their bio, in their 500 words that they have or something, and they say like consent is important. I'm like, so crime is not good? Like where that has become a red flag for me, because I'm like, it just sounds like you're posturing.
Yes.
And so something that in and of itself isn't bad, and actually some might say is a green flag, I see as a red flag because I've had too many experiences where I was like, oh, cool. They use the word consent in their bio, swipe right. And then I see that it's just posturing. And I'm like, okay, now someone writing consent is important in their bio has become a red flag.
I feel that as well when I see people say like, there's some things on dating apps that now have become major red flags for me, which is like good consent and communication is key. And I'm like, please tell me what that means to you, because that is something that you saw someone say and it seemed like a good idea. It's virtue signaling. It reminds I mean, other stuff that are red flags on a dating app are anytime anyone says that they want to date someone who's easygoing, no drama, and likes adventure. Any three of those things, I'm like, that is, again, like you're a parrot. You know, you've just heard someone say that, like, that sounds good. Another thing that this is reminding me of is the way that, like, when someone talks about preferred pronouns, now become a red flag for me as like liberal virtue signaling. And it usually means that I'm seeing some more in the chat.
Yeah, Alex is killing it with
or like who loves to have fun. What?
Sorry,
I'm not.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Meaningless.
Right. So the preferred pronouns thing, it's like if you're talking about gender identity as a preference or pronouns as a preference, that indicates to me that you're not thinking critically about gender, that you are, again, like someone told you to do this. And so you think you're supposed to, which is indicating to me uh, in a lot of different ways that you don't think for yourself, that you yourself are not critical in a way that is in alignment with how I want to be moving through the world, kind of relationships that I want to have.
Oh yeah. That's good-ish. Um yeah, the critical thinking piece, because I think that's exactly what's happening also when someone's making those continuous requests. Like, especially depending on how they're making a request. Like, there are some requests that I'm like, yeah, thank you for saying it that way and not making it seem like you're doing me a favor or whatever. There's some, like, requests aren't necessarily bad, but it's, are you thinking critically about what the context of the request, and B, like, my perspective, or maybe that's the same thing, that is part of the context. And so if you're thinking critically about either the word that you're saying, which is preferred pronouns, or like I like someone who's easygoing and likes to have fun,
It's
you're
meaningless.
not thinking critically. You're not thinking critically about what it is you're saying or what the context. And if you're continuing to like ask for things but not pause to check in on them, like, again, you're not thinking critically about like what about being in relationship with someone.
Correct. Yeah.
No bueno.
Not into it. I did, like, the last time that it happened, um, which was the other day when I posted about it, I said no, like I actually want to stay on the app. And he took it very well, but there was like a couple other things where I was like, yeah, this is just like a typical, this is just your run of the mill
situation. Yeah. I see you have a question. What was it?
Do you think they're not critically, or maybe they're just still actively trying to learn from a baseline of lack of exposure to a topic? I think it can be both, but it does indicate to me, as far as like someone that I want to work with or someone that I want to date, that they're not where I need someone to be in order to be to like fulfill my needs. Yeah.
Yeah, I might even suggest that it goes a little further. I think if an app prompts you to put your pronouns in, that's something different. Like, I see why people would just like fill them in regardless if they thought critically about gender. But if you are choosing to write in your bio what your preferred pronouns are, I kind of think you gotta know what you're talking about. Like,
I agree. And if you're putting it in like your email signature, but I'm also specifically thinking like when I've had conversations with people who ask about preferred pronouns, or even who ask me what my preferred pronouns are, or on an intake form. So like that is a huge red flag for me. Like I had this happen with a therapist where the intake form said, what are your preferred pronouns? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to be able to talk to you about gender because I don't know that you're thinking critically about your gender. And, you know, and there are loads of cis people who think critically about their gender, you being one of Casper. And that's something that I need in my life if I'm going to be friends with someone, if I'm going to work closely with someone, if someone is going to be offering me care. That is a requirement. And that's going to eliminate a lot of options from my life, but that's the kind of care that I want.
Yes, but I would also say that if you let's say there's a person that's really like wanting to be leftist liberal, but kind of struggling. Did you go away?
I don't know why I went away. I can't see my face.
I can't see your face either.
What happened?
I don't like this.
Huh. What? I don't know what's going on.
You very clearly.
Huh. I might need to
leave and then come back.
Something's wrong. Oh, wait.
Your green screen's bright. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Cool. Right. I think there's the person that's still at a beginner level when it comes to reckoning with gender and doesn't write anything about gender in their profile except maybe no, honestly, like doesn't write anything about gender in their profile. And then there's the person who isn't thinking about it but does write their pronouns in their bio. And that second person, like that frustrates me because you're putting out this like I am like kind of this I am an ally energy. I see a lot of people with BLM in their profile. I'm like, what does that mean to you? Like I really think you're just virtue signaling. I saw someone recently like had their pronouns a cis man. I feel comfortable saying a cis man who had like him, he, theirs in his profile, then changed it after I called him out for something. And I was like, yeah, you just put theirs in your profile because it doesn't matter because you're a white cis man and someone calling you they literally has no impact on your life. So you don't care if someone calls you they, but like the pronouns you actually use are he and him. And that's the kind of thing that is one of those things that you think is a good sign and it ends up being actually dangerous because they're not thinking critically about what they're communicating to the world and how others are perceiving what they put out there, how others are perceiving the requests that they ask or the
Right.
phone number and then date and then yeah.
I'm going to go somewhere with this and then you can decide if you want to run down this road with me.
Okay. Cool.
It gives me, when someone puts their pronouns in their email signature or asks for my pronouns or puts pronouns in their bio, it gives me a false sense of safety if they're not actually doing the work. So if they say that, like I dated someone who at the time was using he, him pronouns, but told me that he used to use they, them pronouns, but could not get my pronouns to save his life. And I was like put at ease to a certain degree because I was like, oh, then this person is playing with gender and is exploring his gender and clearly has experience with this, and then repeatedly misgendered me. And I've now had this experience enough times where it's like, if you don't know how to use my pronouns and you're putting your pronouns in your email signature, then I think, oh, cool, this person gets it. I can talk to them. They're going to notice. They're paying attention to these things. And then when they don't, it gives me like a sense of betrayal that I wouldn't have had if they just had not done that virtue signaling.
How do you feel like that has to do, like what about that has to do with consent for you?
For me, representing yourself honestly and authentically in a way that also cares for other people's sense of safety has a lot to do with consent.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm thinking about, I mean, yeah, I shared that recently that someone put themselves out there, still does as far as I know, as a communication coach. And fully lacked communication skills, checking in on body language, respecting my no, respecting my boundaries. And definitely, I think a big part of that as someone who is skilled at boundary setting, I'm still human and I deferred to him more than I otherwise would have because of that false sense of safety. You have like, it's like when someone's part of your, like, I'm going to use the word tribe here because it's evolutionarily, like when someone's part of your tribe, you kind of feel a sense of safety with them more. And I was like, oh, you're someone who works in communication. I can be safe with you. You're someone who understands gender, thought critically about gender. I can be safe with you. And then turn out not to be. The same thing is true in a very big way with how kink and BDSM is becoming more mainstream, that people are putting themselves out there as knowledgeable or as not even as knowledge. They're just saying they are certain kink things or they like certain kink things without having ever taken a class without ever having read a book, without ever having done like coaching or gone to a professional sex worker in that space to learn more about it. Like none of it. But they say that's what they are. They say that's what they know. And so how can you not believe it? You want to like, you don't want to take away their, like say, I know you better than you know you. Like that's not what it's about. But you need to know yourself really and present yourself honestly, or you can't be in consent. You can't be practicing consent because you're missing a whole side of the relationship. You're missing, there's so much that's not being said that is important to be said.
Right. You know, I matched with someone on Field also who said that he had benevolent dom tendencies or something like that. And I was like, can you explain this to me? And he was like, yeah, I'm like sort of I'm like mainly interested in my partner's pleasure during sex. And I was like, okay, that doesn't sound like dom to like a dom to me. Do you have like experience with BDSM? And he was like, no, not really. And I was like, yeah, there's like a lot of people sort of using these words now as like buzzwords without actually having any experience, and it's misleading.
Terrifying.
Yeah, right. And he like responded a while later and he was like, I really wanted to think about that. Like, I definitely don't want to like mislead anyone, you know, here's what it means to me. And I just didn't end up talking to him anymore because I was like, that is really problematic and potentially even like dangerous, because you're giving people the wrong impression. You know, like if you're going to say that you're a dom or you're interested in that, that means that actually has meaning within a community, and especially on an app like Field, it means something pretty specific, like big and like open, and there's a lot of a range in there, but it does mean something very specific. And it means that like if someone tells me that they have experience in BDSM, then similar to what you were saying, I let my guard down to a certain degree, because I'm like, okay, this person has like consent knowledge and awareness and a practice.
Yeah. Someone unmatched from me the other day because they told me they like switching, and they had like some things about being dom and sub or some kink stuff, BDSM stuff in their profile. And I said, how do you like to be a dom and how do you like to be a sub? Because those are very big categories. Yep. And that's one of my checkers. I'm like, I know that if you can't name dom types or tell me what you feel when you're in dom space or what you feel when you're in sub space, like I know you have no idea what you're talking about. And I asked that question, they immediately unmatched me. And I was like, yep, that's what I thought.
Yep. Okay, what's next on the docket? I have one that I can go to. Do you have anything that any consent moments that you want to go over?
I gotta write things down. I had one. Go, and then we'll see.
Okay. Well, I've talked about this before, and I think it does relate. I now have my like fake name on the profile is the same as my Instagram. It's Consent Wizard. And so what I like about that is that I think that there are a lot of people who then just swipe left. And that's great. If that's something that freaks them out, or they're not interested, or they feel intimidated or whatever, then like, great, sayonara. But there was someone that I matched with, and I've told you about this date numerous times. And it's interesting because I think what this particular experience did for me was it let me know that I'm putting my own guard down because I'm introducing myself as the consent wizard and assuming that other people then self-eliminate. right?
That's real.
Yes. Okay. So this guy was like only in town for like a week and a half, and I sort of was like, I've never really had that experience of like going on a date with someone and like only needing to think about like how do I feel in this exact moment and not needing to like think, do I want to see this person again in the future? Like I'm curious how I will feel in that dynamic. And so we went out. I was like interested enough, and there were just like consent red flags one after the next. I invited him to come sit next to me. Oh, no. Before that, he said, it was like, do we want to get a drink, or is this date over, or are we going back to my place? And he was like, do you want to introduce me to your cats? That was the initial indicator that this person does not know how to ask for what he wants, right? Like he needs to like disguise a request for an invitation in asking if I want to introduce him to my cats. I said, are you trying to get invited to my apartment? And he kind of like sheepishly looked away. And then I was like, do you want to sit next to me? And he said, yeah, thanks for inviting me. So he came over and sat next to me and then immediately tried to hold my hand. And I couldn't tell if he was trying to hold my hand or put his hand on my thigh. And so I was kind of like, whoa, what are you doing? Do you want to hold my hand? And he kind of like nodded. And I was like, you can ask for that. I like being asked. And then we held hands, and then he immediately said, can I kiss you? And I was like, whoa, like let me just even see what it feels like to hold your hand. Like, give me a whole minute. And then we made out at the bar eventually, and then we did go back to my house, and we started making out immediately. I mean, like, immediately. Hand on my boobs, then under for like 2 seconds, then under my shirt on my boob, and then started going down like the back of my pants until I like pulled his hand out, and I was like, whoa, dude, you gotta ask. And he was so shut down, like he was like kind of mortified, and I was like, I was horrified because I was sitting there thinking like, is this how you're having sex with people? Like, you haven't asked me a single thing that I'm okay with, that I want. Like, not a single thing. Anyway, it sort of continued like that. Like, he was light years ahead of me the whole entire time. And I afterwards I was like, I guarantee this guy has left many, many people after sexual encounters feeling extremely violated. And this was someone who had matched with me with my handle as consent wizard. And so I kind of was like, whoa, you didn't even clock that? Like, you thought that you should go out with me with like absolutely no knowledge or awareness of this concept? Like, it was wild.
This is where I've encountered so many people who think they have a consent practice in the bedroom and they just don't, which means they probably don't have it elsewhere either.
Of course not.
Because if you don't have it in a high stakes environment, like where the heck do you have it? But we've talked about this before, where we had ended up doing like on accident, like, or sometimes on purpose, maybe even like free education, because these people are like, yeah, no, yeah, it's really important. And then
I admire your work.
I admire your work. You're doing great things. And then you talk to them, and I had someone say, I'm really good about communication. Things were thanked. And afterwards I was like, I felt safe the whole time because he did not ask me to do anything, and I was running the show. So it was just like me escalating, him saying yes, me escalating, him saying yes or no, so I still felt safe. But I asked him afterwards, I was like, you didn't ask me one question. Like, you didn't say anything. And he was like, oh yeah, like it must have been an off night for me or something. I'm like, okay.
What?
No, that's not what happened. He would do things to me. He wouldn't ask, and he would do, like, I was mostly being the show, but there were definitely things that he did to me that I clocked, and I was like, I'm okay with this, but like, you didn't ask. Yeah, no, he did things and did not ask at all. And he's like, you're right, I didn't do that. I had an off night. I'm like,
What?
I don't know what that, like, I don't know how that's a thing. And so people are saying, like, and I think it really is a problem that goes along with this whole, like, look, these are my preferred pronouns, and I'm easygoing, and I love all people,
Yeah.
like, consent is great, and I'm just like, this is just, let you think that you are solid, you are one of the good ones, and so you are bypassing all of the critical thinking you need to do and all of the precautions you need to take.
Good guy syndrome.
Good guy syndrome.
Yeah. I have one more moment on my that I just added to the docket here, which is that the person I went out with who like used to use they them pronouns but couldn't get my pronouns right. He had an incredible, like, comprehensive and really thorough, impressive consent practice. Like, I was really blown away.
Mm-hmm.
It did give me a really wonderful sense of safety, but then there were things where it was like glaringly missing, where I was like, and then I was so shocked. Like he missed his STI appointment and didn't tell me that until we were like already hanging out. And then we were going to hang out again in a few weeks. Like, he lived in San Francisco. And so he was like, okay, so my goal is to like get tested and have those results by the time that you get up here so that you can like make an informed decision. I was like, okay, great. Didn't hear anything about it until we were in person. And it was not just an STI test, it was also a COVID test. He had been sick. And so he didn't tell me that he did not have the results of his COVID test until I was already in his presence. So there were like all these things that kept happening where I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then the last time that we had sex, he did something that I don't even want to describe, that just was like kind of gross to me. And he had asked before he did anything, like he would, when he was going down on me, he would ask before he put fingers inside me. Like, he was like asking it like every teeny tiny little like move, even, you know, even though for me, like, it's usually, it feels, as far as like intimacy goes, it's like fingers and then mouth. And so like he was already using his mouth, and I was like, yeah, of course you can put it, but I like appreciated that he asked. But then there was something that he did that I think was like what he wanted to do as he was like getting close to orgasm, and he did not ask. And I think it was because he felt like embarrassed by that particular thing, and so then like the practice goes out the window. And he was like taking, in a non-consensual way, like doing something to me that I suspect, helped him get there, and did not check in about it, because he probably thought that I was going to say no. And so then I was left being like, wait, where did the practice go all of a sudden?
That sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes me think of like and this is like Betty Martin stuff, if you, as soon as you feel like you are afraid to check in to update the agreement, that's exactly when you should.
Yeah.
That's when you need to.
Never heard her say that, but that's great.
I don't know if she says that, but that's like my thing about the wheel of consent, is like, I've noticed that when I am like afraid to check in about the agreement, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I really need to.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely think of time. I'm going on a date with a woman tonight, and I've been on a date with a couple women. I'm probably forever trying to figure it out. And as someone who, I don't even feel like I can call myself a baby gay, because like I'm not, but like I'm definitely not like, oh yeah, I date women. Like, I'm definitely not that. And I was feeling this like after we like set a time. And like I do wish I had done this earlier, but I did it at least after we had set a time. I was like, I'm kind of embarrassed about this, like, because I think because we already set the date, or because like we didn't talk about any of those things. And I sent a message that I was like, not sure what you're looking for. I totally understand why someone who's like a lesbian for 10, like out for 10 years would not want to like go through the process of like being a support of someone like newly trying to figure out their sexuality, or who hasn't really been with women much. And that was, I was like, I got like a little bit of like I don't want to say anything, but I think it's a good idea. And then I did, and I was so glad I did, because I would have felt so even though like, regardless of like if it's deceptive or not, like I think there can be different opinions on it. I would have felt I was being deceptive. Like I would have felt like I wasn't telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me, sports. And so I was so glad I did it, and I imagine that they appreciate it too. But yeah, that's one of those moments where I definitely was like, oh yeah, one of those moments where I don't want to check in, and I probably should use the S word.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I'm in like a similar boat where like I haven't I've predominantly dated cis men, like not exclusively, but like mostly. And I am of the mind that like I at least want to know that there's a connection first, because there's like things about me and like experiences that I've had or that I haven't had that I don't necessarily feel everyone deserves to know about me before they like earned my trust, you know?
Yeah. Also, we're saying we met in a queer space and then we matched on Field. And so I think there was also like, it felt, I don't know, that it felt fair to like give, and we like talked a little bit there, and then we matched on Field. And so it felt like, by the way, I know like now you've seen me, like I identify as queer on Field currently, and like you've seen me at this queer party. So let me just like, because and you know what, it's the exact it's that thing of what am I putting out into the world, and I recognize that I am putting out into the world like I'm a confident queer woman, and like
right.
That's not totally it. I say queer because my sexuality is not straightforward, and it's not, there is variation to it, and that's the label that feels mostly correct. Maybe heteroflexible is better, I don't know. But so kind of checking in on, hey, I realize I'm putting this out into the world, and I don't want you to make false assumptions that would be very fair assumptions.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what we were saying before of like, you know, accurately representing yourself and making sure that you're like setting expectations so that other people aren't misled and like feeling safe in a way that they may or may.
That's also right. That's also part of it. Like when I talk about sex, I would say probably 50% of the time still talk in terms of heteronormativity, or like I do it and then I follow it by like, if I'm thinking about heteronormativity, but like it's really because my brain just goes there. And so like, yeah, maybe a lesbian wouldn't feel safe around me. Like totally fair. And so I want to make it clear, like, yeah, totally. It's definitely a safety thing.
Yeah. Well, we're at time.
We're at time. Thank you all for joining us for Consent Countdown episode 1. this, I think we're gonna put this on the next song on the playlist, apparently. We're gonna put this on the feed and on YouTube, I think is the plan. Do you have a YouTube
Yeah.
channel? Ah,
Yeah,
cool.
we
I
can
have a YouTube channel too.
we can use my YouTube channel, or we can start a new YouTube channel.
I was gonna say we can also just post the. Oh yeah, yeah, I guess it should live in one place.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can put it on your channel. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks everyone who tuned in.
Yeah. Thank you all. Thanks for the questions.
Is your class? Do you want to plug your class?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm teaching a class that starts November 1st. It's a 6-week class. And registration closes this Friday at midnight Pacific time, or 11:59 Pacific time. It's on Zoom. It's meeting twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. I'm teaching Mondays, and then discussion is facilitated by Mistress Vivienne Vi on Instagram. And all the information that you need for that is in the link in my bio.
Take it is what I'm gonna say. Take the course. I haven't done the 6-week, but I've been to Mia's classes, one of Mia's classes, and it was great. And it's exactly what we're talking about. We're like, you might think you have a consent practice because you're a liberal and leftist and you care about people's rights, and like you're gonna find out in this class that you had no idea what consent was. That's my plug.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
See you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.